Pat Shurmur, the head coach of the Giants, raving about his rookie quarterback who was 9 for 11 last night against the Cincinnati Bengals for 141 yards. Chris, and so far in the preseason, 25 for 30, 369 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, passer rating 140.1 for Daniel Jones. And one last note from Shurmur. He said this also last night. You can ask me all you want about why I like Daniel Jones. I think it's time to start asking the people that didn't like him what they think, quite frankly. What's not to like about Daniel Jones? And here we go. The question's going to linger. When will he play in the regular season?
Yeah, it's definitely been very impressive. It really has. And Eli Manning, again, he didn't look bad last night either. I want that to be noted. You know, it's not like he's out there throwing lame ducks all over the field. Threw a nice little ball that could have been a touchdown pass into a tight window. The guy got hit, ended up being incomplete. But Daniel Jones, hey, right now as it stands, I was wrong, and there's no other way to say that. Yes, I did not love it. I don't sit here and just go, oh my gosh, look at his arm. He's throwing lasers all over the field, and sometimes that's what I look at pick number 6 and want. But obviously, they like the psyche of the player. He is a good athlete. He throws perfect spirals every time he lets the ball out of his hands, Mike. And to what Pat Shurmur said that really jumps out to me, and, you know, where I can self-scout thyself and say I was wrong, you know, compared to him and a guy like Drew Lock, is Daniel Jones does know how to play the position better right now as far as quarterbacking in the NFL. And that does go back to David Cutcliffe and maybe his mindset, and you get to know the guy himself when he's at the chalkboard and in meetings and things like that, where I know he blew people away. But it's been all positive from Daniel Jones to this point, and good for him, because he's silencing a lot of critics, even like myself and a lot of New Yorkers up here too.
Well, remember, what they were looking for was a guy who would be able to survive in that storm of constant criticism, and you're going to show up on the back pages of the tabloids, and they're going to be talking about you on WFAN and nationally, but more importantly, locally, you become an obsession. And can you deal with that? And Chris, the fact that he's dealt with it so well on the front end of his career, all the criticism that emerged, getting booed at the Yankee game, everything that has come his way, he has been unflappable. And that's the kind of personality they are looking for that will translate, they believe, into a guy who can be successful even when he has those moments of adversity. Because the adversity will come at some point. How do you deal with it? And one of Eli Manning's great strengths was he never got flustered by anything that happened on the field. Now, Pat Shurmur was also asked this question. He was asked if it's possible that Daniel Jones could be the Week 1 starter 16 days from now at Dallas. Here's what Shurmur said. Listen carefully to what he says, and more importantly, Chris, what he doesn't say. Question, is it possible he'll start? I've said it all along. Daniel, when it's time to play, is going to be ready. And we're going to continue to get him ready. We got a couple of weeks left before we play Dallas. That tells me, now I'm a little biased here because my hot take all along has been, I think he plays Week 1.
Right.
But when you're asked, is it possible that he starts Week 1, and that's the answer? If Eli Manning is clearly the guy, I mean, think, if Bill Belichick was asked that question about Brian Hoyer, that's not the answer you're going to get about Brian Hoyer. What are you talking about? Tom Brady's the starting quarterback. So the fact that the answer was something other than, what are you talking about? Eli Manning's the starter. I think the door's still open. It may not be shoved all the way, but I think the door's still open.
It is peculiar that he didn't just shut it down. I got to say, and I didn't know about this quote until you just read it and said it either way. But, yeah, just from hearing it there, you would expect the answer to be like, hey, we love what Daniel Jones is doing right now. He's been phenomenal. He's even exceeded our expectations and what he's done. I mean, he's really taken control of this offense. But Eli Manning's our quarterback, and Eli's been really good. I mean, that would be the answer I would say, or I would expect a lot of head coaches to say. So I'm with you. It does leave a little crack in the door there. I don't think that realistically is going to happen. But I'm with you in the fact that he left us able to debate that a little bit with the way he said it.
Yeah, I mean, and this comes at a time when owner John Mara has made it clear that he's rooting for Eli Manning to start all year long. And even though they say it's Pat Shurmur's decision, you know, sometimes you got to make the decision that the boss wants you to make. Even though it's entirely your decision, you better decide to make the decision that the person who signs your checks is going to be happy with. I still am stunned by that comment. And, you know, it really gets the mind racing on what would happen if at some point over the next week or two, they just, you know, let's say that Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman bring John Mara into a film room, and if they even have film rooms anymore, wherever, just bring the computer to John Mara's office with a calzone and sit down and show him Daniel Jones film and show him Eli Manning film and show him some stuff from practice and explain to him what they see in Daniel Jones. I think they could be capable of changing John Mara's mind if the goal is to win football games and go with the best guy they have. So Who knows what's really going on behind the scenes, and what a strange situation that would be to see Eli Manning on the bench. And, you know, maybe he wouldn't be on the bench, Chris. I mean, we don't know what's up with Cam Newton, and I don't know whether or not the Panthers would even want an Eli Manning, and Eli Manning has a no-trade clause. But if a Teddy Bridgewater-type injury happens in the next week and it opens a clear opportunity to be a team starting quarterback all year long, if Eli Manning is looking at that versus being on the bench to start the season, if that's what the Giants decide to do, then, you know, crazier things have happened in the NFL. And when Pat Shurmur has the opportunity to slam the door on any talk of Daniel Jones being the starter week one, that tells me we need to keep paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep paying attention to all the things you just said. But just when you hear everybody talk about how good Eli Manning's also looked at training camp, and just the look of him in the first, you know, 2 preseason games of action or 3 preseason games that we've seen to this point, also added to the fact that the Mara family is fiercely loyal, especially to guys like Eli Manning, who's one of the great faces of the franchise. I mean, him, LT, you know, my father, other guys. I mean, Eli Manning's going to be at the top of all of those guys. I just can't imagine the Mara family, Steve Tisch, any of them wanting to ever see Eli Manning in another uniform other than the New York Giants.
But, Chris, remember last year when John Mara was asked point blank if he is keeping Eli Manning on the field for sentimental reasons? He got pissed.
Yes, he did.
He was mad. He was almost yelling about it, and he was offended that question would even come up. And at some point, thou doth protest too much, but it sure does feel like sentimentality is driving it at this point. And that's the thing. If Gettleman and Shurmur decide that it's in the best interest of the team to go with Daniel Jones, there is a way that they can try to set the table for John Mara to come to the conclusion on his own that this is the right thing to do. That's how there's a delicate balance to get the boss to think it's his idea. But there is a way to do it if they feel strongly about it. And I just look at that response from Pat Shurmur last night, and I just wonder what in the hell is going on in New York. And I'm fascinated by it. And there is a chance that Daniel Jones does give that team a better chance to win this year. And it lays the foundation for more success. I'm a big believer in getting that guy out there as a rookie because he's going to hit his ceiling faster.
It's the best
in 2020,
way. You're right.
2021, etc.
I'm with you there. The best way to learn and get ready for the NFL is to get out there and play in the NFL and take your lumps early on and continue to grow from there. And to what you're saying too, also, let's not forget this. You know, John Mara, you're right. He did make those comments last year. It looked like he was almost offended that question was even asked. Well, he might have been offended last year that it was even asked because there was also nobody there that I think was even remotely a threat to Eli Manning as far as backup quarterbacks were concerned. I mean, maybe they were going to play Kyle Lauletta, but I think Kyle Lauletta kind of showed his true colors when he got in a cop chase on the way to Giant Stadium one day. So that kind of ended that altogether. But this is a different scenario. You're right with the comments between Shurmur, and then we know the Mara family certainly signed off on drafting Daniel Jones at number 6 to where I don't see it happening week 1, but gosh, if things got off to a slow, bad start and it's, 2-4, 1-3, then I think there's a very real chance that they will pull the hook on Eli Manning and Daniel Jones will be out there.
But why do you want to let it get to that point? Why do you want, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
like if you think Jones is better, if you think he's better, why do you want to go with the guy who's inferior and then wait until it feels like the season is on the verge of being lost before you trot out the rookie. That's what makes no sense to me, Chris.
Well, I hear that, but I don't think the Giants are looking at it. I think they're looking at, this is, first off, I don't think they expect to win the Super Bowl. I think also, hey, Eli, just again, with the way everyone talks and the way I've seen it so far, how he looks, yeah, maybe he's not as talented as Daniel Jones right now. That's fair. He's not. Daniel Jones has got a stronger arm. He's a better athlete, all of those things right now. But also, week 1 at the Dallas Cowboys, that's a whole different, we've talked about how simple preseason's been, and, some teams are game planning, other teams are playing as basic as it is. To be thrown into that fire in Dallas week 1, and then also the Buffalo Bills in week 2, who were one of the 3 best defenses in football last year. I'm sure a little of that's coming into account too, where, yeah, they want to win games, and maybe they feel like Eli Manning's experience and playing against some of these teams and having feel for these defensive coordinators throughout his 16-year career, that he can give them the best chance, especially early on, to get off on the right foot.
First regular season game ever played at the Cowboys Stadium in Dallas that was built 10 days ago. He signed the wall afterward.
Right.
For a guy who typically doesn't show that side of himself, he was pretty excited about that. And it's a tough balance. It's a tough call, and it's going to be a tough transition. And Eli Manning was asked last night on the way out of the locker room if he has been told that he will be the week 1 starter. He said, "I haven't been told any different." And that's the guy who's kind of lost in all this. And I don't know. Maybe in a roundabout way, they are, and maybe, hey, bear with me on this, trying to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Getting Daniel Jones ready, but at the same time, a little jab here, a little jab there at Eli Manning to get him pissed off and lathered up and ready to show he's still got one more good run left in him.
That could
so
be
you got
it, Mike.
Jones ready in the event that Eli Manning can't get it done.
Right.
But you're meanwhile pushing the buttons on Eli Manning to get him pissed off, because no one's talking about Eli Manning this preseason. They're all talking about Daniel Jones.
No, you're right. That's a really good point, Mike. I got to say that. That's John Gruden would do that stuff. Damn, when Tom Brady started to slip, they drafted Jimmy Garoppolo, and all of a sudden he started to become this awesome player again. So sorry I had to cut you off there, but I felt like...
No, I'm gay. Anytime you want to tell me I have a good point,
right,
feel free to cut me off.
Okay,
I will always shut up for praise.
Good.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.